Hi, Jaimina. Thank you so much for joining us in this podcast called Brain and You.
Yeah, thank you. It's great. It's been great being here. And myself is Jaimina, a BCBA and US certified BCBA who done a course in Florida Institute of Technology. And I run a center more than 12 years, working with children with autism, other disabilities as well, not only
Mhm,
autism population with LD,
mhm.
ADHD, Down syndrome as well. I'm working. And I'm also go as a school consultant as well. And I'm a course provider for QBA, who is like they also offer a course like QBA, QASP, and ABAT. I do that as well. And I run a parent training course as well. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
So, Jaimina, I know that you have earlier in your previous avatar, you've been a special educator. Now you are a BCBA. Now you're also training parents into becoming qualified behavioral therapists themselves. So, before that, I just want to tell you who will be the listeners of this program. So,
Okay.
Ayurved, this company works in the space of nutrition. And through nutrition, we have reached out to almost 5, 6 lakh children. So, almost a million parents.
Wow.
And these parents are typically they are parents to children within the age group of 2 to 10. So we do have older children as well, but mostly I would say between 2 to 10.
Well,
So
okay.
in this conversation today, the questions that I ask you are mostly the questions that parents have in mind. Just keep in mind this age group so
Okay.
that
Yeah.
it is more useful for the
Yeah.
parents to know. So
Yeah.
in this journey, I know, Jamina, you in this last 12 years or rather more of your experience in working with parents in this in the area of autism and neurodiversity. Can you tell me, is it true that sometimes too much therapy can be harmful?
It's not, we cannot say that too much therapy is harmful, but see, for example, as an ABA, we provide a methodology to teach them. Got it? And for example, a speech therapist, from her point, she may suggest some strategies as a and OT can suggest. So all of them which are not aligned together, if they are aligned, I think that makes sense to the child, because I may work
Mm,
in one part, a speech can work in one part, and OT. So there should
mm,
be all the there should be a collaborative approach and aligned to the child's need is what I look into it.
mm. Fair point, actually. This is true. A lot of parents are going for all the three therapies, taking their children to all the three therapies, and this is something very common that I've heard that things are not really aligned.
Aligned,
So my
yes. So, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
So my next question is actually related to that because most of the families have a mixed socioeconomic background. Now they
Yes.
have to really take care of the expenses also. So
Yes.
in
Yes.
your opinion, Jaimina, let's say a child is diagnosed. If resources are limited, what therapies would you advise to parents to absolutely prioritize?
See, when the first it's diagnosed, when the child is diagnosed, like for example, some of them come when they are 2 years, they say that my child is not doing a name call response. She likes to play alone. When I call her sometimes, or when she wants something, she cries a lot. We don't know what happened. So they take to a doctor. And what happened, the first thing which comes to my mind is they have to go to an ABA therapy, because when they're really 2 years or 1.5, so that we settle, we work on the joint attention, we work on the tolerance and all. After
Mhm.
they're getting ready, maybe they will be ready for speech and OT. So there is a stepwise therapy is there, because in US they follow the step. When the child is diagnosed at 1.8 or 2 as early, so the first thing they start with ABA, and then if the child has
Understood.
oral placement
Mm,
issues, feeding
mm,
issues, and some
mm,
sensory things, they refer to different things. So my point is, if the child is having a lack of eye contact, no speech, and they don't have name call response, so then my first suggestion, they have to go for an ABA is my first thing. With the limited resource,
Understood. Mm,
when they say limited resources, see, ABA is now become very affordable. It's not very expensive. There are most of the ABAs are more affordable, they give. So they can try out. And we
mm,
also have a parent training program. They can attend the parent training program
mm,
and free parent training program is also available. So they can train themselves if they feel that they are in the remote area, they don't have a ABA.
mm,
Got it?
mm.
So they can
Understood.
get touch with some experts to get a home plan and work on them, is what I suggest.
Very fair point. This is something similar to what I've heard in the past also, that you need to start by regulating the behavior a bit so that the child is able to sit and listen
Yes.
and then follow the other things. So, in your experience, Jamina, What are the top three daily activities a parent can do at home to regulate sensory regulation in a child?
The sensory regulation depends on the child as they grow. See, for example, there is a different diet when the child is 2 years to 3 years. There is a different thing. So, you let me know which kind of population, because for each one there is a different. But for me, the first thing they should have
Two
a
to
structure.
five. Two to
Okay,
five,
two to
let's say.
five means first thing I feel I recommend the parents to have a structure in them. They should have a clear visuals like stating that okay, this is your play time and this is
Mm,
your. The first thing comes is a structure, because children with autism, if they are in the structure, there is a great chance they can
mm,
improve the way the daily living skills with their communication. The second thing, what I say, develop the play skills. The first, what I structure. The second, I feel a lot of play, a lot of toys, whatever the child likes, let them play, let them enjoy, like taking games and lot of sensory toys and plays. I feel that play will also
yeah.
increase communication. So the second tip, I think, you play with the child. Don't place demands while playing. Don't ask, do this, do this. No demands.
Mm,
Without demands, just we say pairing, just pair with the child, just be fun. So that is the second thing I'll do. So wherein the child gets more confidence and trust in
mm,
the parents, and the child starts getting an instructional control. So these are the something to is what I think I feel the parent has to do at this point. Any parent who has struggling a tug of war with the child is not listening. My child does not listen, but the child
mm,
goes to the therapy center. My child listen, but the same thing comes to at home. He is not at all listening. He's not. So they just put a pass over the ball. Just you got it. They are only here. They are not listening. So it's fine. Let them do there, and let them, my child, let me do watch TV or do something. But that is not the case. Like we need to put the equal effort what is happening in the therapy. Even more, I recommend. I told, just pair with the child. If the child is watching TV, just sit with the child and watch, and just be more interactive. Gradually, you can whatever the child like, just build it. Then start working on the skills which you want to build. This is what I feel.
understood. I want to go deeper into this aspect of play. There's something that I've specifically written to ask you today is, so if a child refuses typical therapy activities, what is that one fun or creative way you can sneak therapy into playtime?
See, the one thing we do a we do a free play. It's not that we don't keep a structure, we don't keep a table and chair and put all the things. It's not just a free play. As I said, no, when the child likes
Mm,
to watch TV, just sit with the child and watch the TV, and then you can just off the TV, and the child says, "Mama, on." Then you on. So like that is just just one step of communication, and then the child says, "I want to watch more time." Just building the communication
yeah,
through play. You got it. Like whatever
understood.
if the child likes bubble, just blow the bubble and hold
Mm,
it. Let the child says, "Mama, bubble." Then you blow it. Just a small interaction where
understood.
it doesn't
Mm,
feel that the child is talking, but the child is it's playing.
engaging, yeah. In this 12 years of journey, or in this these several interactions that you've had with parents, what is one therapy myth you wish every parent should stop believing?
So the one thing I feel they stop, well, they sometimes I feel they think I have done much, nothing more to do for my kid. I have gone to every places. I have a recently a parent came to me and said I have been to all the therapies, and even I have sold my house to do therapy, and now I don't know what to do now with my child. So they are not believing in that consistency and a proper step by step action is what I feel. That they feel that okay, they go to OT for a three, sometimes they get better, or a speech for 1 year, my child will be okay. So, and then if they are not okay, they believe, okay, nothing is working. So I feel the parent has to be equipped. They should be inside the classes, observing what's happening, practicing at home, and equipping themselves so that they don't go into this myth like the therapy is not going to work.
Mm,
This is not going to work for my child. That is not going to. So I feel if they break that barrier, I think every parent can achieve something with the child, is what I feel.
excellent. And there are lots of times when we hear that a child feels disturbed, or his sensory because of the sensory challenges, he's not at rest when it comes to colors or the lighting in the house, or maybe some sound or noise. So my next question to you would be, can environment at home, like colors, sounds, and lighting, speed up or slow down child's sensory development?
See, it depends. Like some children are hypo or hypersensitivity. You got it. So there are, so sometimes it may, sometimes they are very sensitive, the child. So when there is a bright light, they start to avoid the room, or if there is a dark room, they don't go. So it depends child to child. So what I best, let us do
Mm,
a assessment and see what is the child really into it, and try to make the environment friendly to the child, removing those distractions and developing skills so that the child is able to cope up with that changes. Suddenly, see, for example, the child is sometimes getting annoyed with the cooker whistle example, or the
mm,
crackers. It's a common thing during the festival, the crackers, they get very upset. And some people, I have a one of my a client, when there is a Diwali or something, they travel to Kodaikanal, or they travel to hill station where they don't hear because the child gets scared and he will be under the bed or behind the sofa. You got. So what I felt like, we initially we started putting headphones, and slowly we build the skills, build the tolerance, so the child
mm,
gets used to the sensory stimuli, because we
mm.
can't always prevent it. So eventually we need to desensitize the child for those stimuli which is not necessary, which they feel overwhelmed.
Understood. Is there any one powerful daily habit that a parent can introduce to improve child sensory processing?
I feel the one thing is the play. I
Okay.
strongly believe in play. Once if
Okay.
you play with the child and give a lot of play skills, increase the play skills, that will replace this all sensory behaviors, is
Okay.
what I feel. So I
Okay.
highly recommend all my parents to play with the child, different toys, depending on the level of the child.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need to play, and so
Yeah.
that the leisure skills develop, they start independent engagement develops. So once these develops, these kinds of sensory and other behaviors will gradually start reducing.
Mm. Now, since you touched upon engagement, a lot of parents do stress on this word that my child isn't socially engaging. So my next question to you would be that how can parents teach social skills to an autistic child without forcing them into uncomfortable situations?
Yeah. So one of the thing we just start with a parallel play. Just in a play,
Mm,
in a sandpit, the child plays with just another play. We don't even say, once the child comfortably started playing in the parallel play with a peer, then the
mm,
next step, maybe we can start just a greeting, just a hi, or just exchanging whatever the child. So it's basically it's a
understood.
child-led process. Okay, if the child
Uh-huh.
wants a shovel, then you can go to the another peer and get it, and then and next you can you can ask for, give me a shovel. So the next step, like just interacting, you got it, like where
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we can build through play, like
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
child is requesting and the child is
Mm,
also responding to the peer
mm.
things.
I get your point. Follow your child's lead. And this
Yes.
is something true for any parent, whether it's a neurodiverse child or a neurotypical child. I think this is a very strong takeaway. Tell me one thing, Jamina. If a child struggles with transitions and meltdowns, what is a quick hack that always helps?
The quick hacks is, we say something called preparing the child and visual. Preparing the child will really help. And we also say that as a priming, like we just do some role play of for example, the child has to go to a birthday party and the child is having a habit of grabbing the cake. So, example. So we prepare the child, okay, how to stand, wait for teach the waiting skills, teach the child to sit and tell them, okay, when your turn comes, you get the cake. Total then. So waiting time, what you're going to do? You can read book, or you can just sit, look at that, or you can pop up with it, you just play with this. So these kind of role play we do, and then teach
Understood.
them. So the one thing is preparing the child, and visual schedule is a quick tip I can give you on this.
Excellent. I think your answers have been really crisp and to the point. I love them. And I think these eight, nine questions that we went through, my takeaways follow the child's lead, visual aids, and play. The three things that you stressed on. This question that a lot of parents come to us saying that my child does not sit in the washroom to poop. He's not passing stool, he's constipated because of that, because he does not like to sit in the washroom. So what do you think a parent should do to enable the child to go and sit in the bathroom and to uh, use the washroom?
So my thing is, first, like, let me understand what the child likes. What are the child likes to play? For example, the child likes an iPad, example, and maybe I'll tell them, okay, we do a process called gradually desensitize. Probably the room may be dark, or
Mm-hmm,
the room is small. Maybe the lighting is not okay. The child is
mm-hmm,
getting scared to get in. Some sensory issues in the bathroom. We don't we or
mm,
sometimes the flooring. Sometimes it's wet. The child does not like. So we need to understand what exactly it is. Maybe it's a wet, so understand the environment and remove all the environmental variable that is a barrier for the child. And then we start gradually desensitizing. Whatever the child like an ipad, make him go and sit. Whenever only for sitting in the seat, we just give an ipad just for 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 15 seconds, and then once he gets, so you remove. So child knows, okay, when I sit I get. So we gradually shape the behavior so the child sits, and we make it, and we don't force the child. If the child gets out, we just, okay, fine, and we remove it. So it's not that we are forcing the child literally go sit there. You got it? We just feel the child knows, okay, if I sit, I can get the access to ipad. The child starts sitting for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and gradually. And we need to be more consistent. Every 1 hour we need to take them there and make them sit. And mom also has to follow the routine very strictly. Then we have seen success when we do this procedure of gradually making them sit with their favorite toys, favorite things in the seat, and they start enjoying, because they start enjoying the day, that they forget where they are sitting.
Understood.
You got it?
Yeah, yeah. This has been very useful for me, Jamina. I think I have no more questions. I had a list of 8, 9, 10 questions that you have answered so beautifully. So thank you for this.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.